Chapter 13. Wounded.
4? The Minister of Magic gasped. 4 Aurors dead. How did this happen, Harry?
There weren't enough of us, Harry said. We played the only advantage we had. We saw half a dozen of them go out, so we went in. And what little intelligence we had, that should have made us roughly equal. In fact, they outnumbered us by more than 2 to 1, and that was just the witches and wizards. There were 7 or 8 vampires as well. Rowle's now a vampire, it turns out.
The intelligence your contact gave you was inaccurate,
Kingsley summarised.
The team you gave me was too small, Minister, Harry barked. With all due respect.
The Minister shot to his feet.
I made a judgment call, Head Auror.
So did I, Harry spat.
But mine was right, and yours was wrong. I have a responsibility to keep certain information secure in order to prevent public panic, Harry.
I have a responsibility not to waste the bravery and dedication of my Aurors on stupid bloody missions. Ones where they have no chance of success and little chance of survival, Kingsley.
The Minister's nostrils flared. You have the right to resign from your post if you wish.
And let you get the rest of the department killed or maimed, Harry snarled. Not interested. I also have the right to take this before the Wizengamot and let them decide how good your judgment calls are. They faced each other for a long moment. Kingsley was no longer young. He was tall, powerful, and well respected. His reputation was impeccable. But they both knew that it was no match for that of the boy who lived, who had also taken down Voldemort. Kingsley took a slow, deep breath and tried another tack.
Harry, we cannot let this problem with Rowle reach the public. We can surely agree on that.
We need to tackle Rowle, Harry explained, his voice lowered and measured. He has numbers. Unless we can catch him when he has fewer supporters with him, we need numbers. We need one decisive strike, if we get another opportunity.
Kingsley snorted. The more people who know about this, the more likely it is that there will be leaks to the public or to Rowle. He has been a step ahead of us at every turn. He may have informants in the Ministry. We have seen this before, Harry.
If he has been a step ahead of us, Harry pointed out, then his informants are already in the know. Letting the rest of the Aurors in on the situation is going to make no difference. Kingsley nodded once and took to his chair again.
If we can find an opportunity to strike at Rowle, Harry, I shall consider the specific situation. I am open to the idea of you using as many Aurors as you see fit.
Depending on the situation, we may need officers from enforcement too, Harry added.
That will be between you and Hermione, Kingsley parried. But I will empower her to provide as much support as you need to make a decisive strike against Rowle.
The Minister rearranged his robes.
We can only hope that we can find a suitable opportunity.
Harry cleared his throat. He waited for silence in the general office area of the Auror headquarters. The Aurors who had been in the office when Harry and his team had returned knew of the casualties. Those who had been away from the office and had been called in were eager to hear what Harry and the Minister were about to say. It is my painful duty, Harry began, to inform you of the loss of 4 more of our colleagues in action. The Minister will give you the background to the mission that they were on, and I will tell you more about the circumstances of their deaths in a while. First, I would like to remind you of the exemplary officers we have lost. Auror Judith Podmore, Auntie Judith, as we knew her, was a friend to all. She was a loving and nurturing witch with a genuine talent for healing. She was the one we all turned to, not just for our injuries, but also for the wounds that nobody saw. Any trauma, any suffering, Judy would pick up on it, sit you down, and listen patiently while you talked it out. She leaves behind a husband and 2 children. Motus Ledmere was the youngest of our team, but a brilliant aura nonetheless. He was the only wizard in the department who was shorter than I am. But that's not why I'll miss him. Mo was always the first to laugh and the last to stop. He had an infectious enthusiasm for getting the job done. Was not afraid of hard work, not even the paperwork. He was thorough and unstoppable. The office will be quieter and sadder for his loss. Only his parents and his sister will miss him more than we will. Anya Pruitt had an extraordinary way of being in the right place to help and just getting on with what needed to be done. She had an encyclopedic knowledge. Yes, Kingsley helped me write these notes. An encyclopedic knowledge of charms, curses and counter-curses. There were times when I would be about to do something, only to find that Anya had already done it. I expect everyone who's worked with her has had a similar experience. Anya, as you'll all remember, got engaged only a couple of weeks ago, just before Christmas. I will be visiting her fiancée, Suzanne, later today as she was away on business. Please don't say anything about Anya's death outside this office until we change shifts. Garamond Oakes was a steady and pragmatic aura. Gary was someone you always wanted on your side in a fight. I never knew him actually start a fight, but if one started, he would wade in and look after his fellow auras. Gary could be fierce, but it was a cold, measured ferocity. He wasn't a hothead, nor a liability. He was always loyal, professional, and fair. Gary leaves a wife, Janine. I would also like to let you know that Ricky Sharp and Naz Sarson were injured, but are recovering in St. Mungo's. Ricky fought valiantly against insurmountable odds. More on that later. Naz rescued us from a situation that, well, would have killed us all. Both will receive commendations. Kingsley will now bring you up to speed on the background, the events which led up to the mission. After that, I'll fill you in on what happened and what we learned. Most of this will be news to the Minister too. Again, I have to remind you that none of this is for discussion outside this room. I think you'll understand once you've heard what Kingsley has to say. Harry marched into Ambrose's study. Fenton followed him inside and stepped around Harry. "Head Aura Potter, Mr. Ambrose," Fenton announced. "Thank you most kindly, Fenton," Ambrose replied. "I think Harry might well have found his way without your assistance. I am sorry you were inconvenienced, my dear friend." Fenton bowed to them both and turned to leave. "I'm sorry too, Fenton," Harry added. "You are most gracious, friend of Dobby," Fenton replied. He bowed again before leaving and closing the door. "Harsh business with Rowle, Harry," said Ambrose, as Harry took to the seat the old man had indicated. "Rowle is smarter than we expected," Harry said. "We were lucky any of us got out alive." Ambrose peered at him through his eyebrows. "I believe your initial assessment of Rowle was correct, Harry. What you were unaware of was how good his associates are. His new family is intelligent, resourceful, and organized. Their kind are long-lived. They have experienced much, and have had time to become decidedly crafty. Rowle has the sense to realize their strengths. He tells them what he wants to achieve, and does not interfere in how they go about it. I should also make it clear that, due to the use of a little old magic, Rowle is immune to the effects of sunlight." Harry sighed. "Either way, he's always one step ahead of us. We need your help, Ambrose." "There is another matter of which I need to make you aware, Harry," Ambrose said. "It appears the Grey Watcher of whom we have spoken—" "The figure from Lydia's dreams?" Harry asked. "The very same," Ambrose confirmed. Harry felt puzzled. "Is he real?" "All too real, I'm afraid," Ambrose said. "Normally he confines his reality to the altar world. He seems to be interacting directly with Rowle. So that's where Rowle's getting his old magic toys? Harry asked. The Watcher may indeed have been arranging a supply of magical weapons, Ambrose agreed, and possibly brokering a deal between Rowle and his vampire friends. What can this Watcher do if he gets involved in a fight between us and Rowle? There was horror in Harry's question. I do not believe it will come to that, Ambrose soothed. His attention will be drawn elsewhere for the foreseeable future. Your fight with Rowle will be your own, Harry. I was merely pointing out that the dreadful intent behind all this is not coming from Rowle's alleged intellect. But also my own attention will be drawn away for some time, as I have previously suggested. Ambrose leaned forward and tilted his head. What is it that brings you here, Harry, asking for my help when you know I will refuse? Harry looked into the study fire for a reflective moment. His heart was as heavy as his brow. Stupidity, I suppose, Harry admitted with a sigh. Ambrose shook his head. Not at all, Harry. Hope. Hope is the thing which brings you here. Hope and dedication are what keep you going. Stupidity is only in third place. Keep hoping, Harry. Imagine what might have been had Rowle actually taken the grimoire. Harry thought about this for a moment. Weren't you supposed to have destroyed the original grimoire a long time ago? Harry asked. We talked about it a while back. Indeed, Ambrose replied. I was supposed to destroy it. Destroy it I did. I burned it, and I burned the library that held it, the greatest library the world had known up to that point. I stood and watched it burn, while the library burned and collapsed upon it. Then I hunted through the rubble, sifted through the ashes, and scattered the remains across the globe. Indestructible I may be, Harry, but not without sensation or feeling. It was an uncomfortable exercise, physically and emotionally. Harry, I burned a library. Then how? Harry began. After the library burned down, Ambrose explained, and we had all moved on as best we could, someone went back in time and took the grimoire. This would have been while my attention was diverted, presumably. Now I have two memories. One where I watched the grimoire burn, and one where I watched the library burn with no grimoire in sight. How can you have two memories? Harry protested. Time travel doesn't work like that. Ambrose chuckled. Harry, my dear fellow, the likes of us can barely understand simple everyday concepts such as quantum thermodynamics or women. How can we hope to know how something as abstruse and paradoxical as how time travel works? You have experienced only one scenario, the second simplest scenario at that. I have experienced many. They vary wildly. Some can even attract the attention of beings who appear to police the timelines. I suggest you never get involved with time travel again. I try not to do so. And when I say try, I do not mean in the way I try not to get involved in muggle and magical events. I really try. The upshot is that I have now destroyed the grimoire which was in Hermione's office. Please remind me to admonish her about that, and to tell her to get rid of the few remaining time-turners. As it stands, Rowle has a useless copy. However, we do not know how many authentic copies of the grimoire there may now be, nor who has them. I had wanted to quiz Aloria Rakison about that. Unfortunately, I prevaricated and now have lost the opportunity. Harry gave the old warlock a questioning look. The Watcher appears to have dealt with her, Harry, Ambrose went on. He can do that once someone has fully allowed him into their mind. It's about Lydia, Harry asked. Is she in danger? She is in a great deal of danger, Harry, but not in that way. I do not believe the Watcher would be so foolish as to try. He suspects, as I do, that to try would be the end of him. Lydia is more formidable here than we had any right to expect. She is going to have to be. This still doesn't sound like you're going to help, Harry noted. I rather think saving the existence of our species is sort of helping, Harry. But you are correct in thinking that I am not going to police the human species. Whenever I have been involved before, I seem actually to create more problems than I solve. If I can provide the occasional nudge in a more favourable direction for my friends, that is as much as can be hoped for. And I shall be quite busy for a while. Harry slumped back in his chair. You are a remarkable person, Harry, Ambrose said. And you are a remarkably lucky person. And the harder you try, and the more you suffer, the luckier you seem to get. Do not give up. Keep trying, Hedora, and trust to your luck. And do not forget to hope.